you're going to be taking what are already very thin margins on our production and making them even thinner.
A new tax brewing in Olympia causing big concerns tonight for craft breweries across the state.
Scattered showers and cooler temperatures return to the forecast just in time for Easter weekend.
Plus, the judge makes multiple rulings in the lead up to the trial of Brian Kohberger. The latest right here on your KREM 2 Night Report. Good evening. Thank you for staying up late with us tonight for KREM 2 News. I'm Cody Proctor. Tonight, a proposed 100% beer tax increase in Washington state's got brewery owners on edge tonight about what it'll mean for the industry. KREM 2's Connor McAvoy spoke with two owners who say the proposal could be a real buzzkill.
Another day, another dollar for Spokane's Natural 20 Brewing, a small craft brewing company with locations in both Spokane and Spokane Valley.
A big focus on just general community events that we try to get people in for.
But according to owner Reese Carlson, work being done in Olympia could put their dollars at risk. House Bill 2079 aims to add a 100% beer excise tax increase. Smaller breweries making under 60,000 barrels a year are currently paying about $4.78 per barrel. The new proposal would see that jump to $9.51. Larger breweries making more than 60,000 barrels a year would also double from $8.08 per barrel to $16.16.
A beer tax of 100% would probably put 25% of your Washington breweries out of business within the next year.
No Lie Brewhouse owner John Bryant says the proposed increase will only force brewery owners to take steps to combat rising costs.
The majority of breweries in Washington state, hometown craft breweries of every city that employ people, buy local equipment, buy ingredients, pay taxes, are carrying a sufficient amount, heavy amount of debt coming out of COVID.
He says his business won't raise their prices if the tax increase becomes a reality. The same can't be said for Natural 20.
In the end, it's going to come down to affecting either the staff and employees or the customers.
Carlson says they'd raise prices before losing staff if the bill becomes law. If that's the case, customers would likely pay an extra 50 cents to $1 for a pint of beer. He says that's significant.
Especially when you stack up, how frequently either somebody comes in or how many beers they want to have. I mean, it starts to add up.
The bill's now in a House committee. The Washington State Legislature has until April 27th to finalize the budget. Both Carlson and Bryant hope the bill doesn't go any further.
When you carry excessive debt, then you have to raise revenue. And guess what the state's doing? The same thing.
Connor McAvoy, KREM 2 News.
And in the meantime, Canada's break from American-made wine is crushing wineries here in the Pacific Northwest. One wine organizer say it may be difficult to come back from. Canada's the #1 export market for Washington wine. That's according to the Washington Wine Commission. Last month, Canada started to boycott American wines in retaliation to President Donald Trump's tariffs. The results have the potential to be catastrophic for the wine industry.
Our #1 export market, which literally disappeared overnight. That market alone represents $10 to $12 million in business.
Stone says local wineries are incredibly frustrated at the loss of business. Wine America hopes to meet with the U.S. trade reps to talk about how tariffs are impacting the industry. Well, let's take a break from the headlines right now to take a first look at your weekend forecast with Chief Meteorologist Jeremy Lagoud tonight.
Well, it was an absolutely gorgeous day across much of the inland Northwest, and if we could have just lived in earlier this evening, life would have been great. But unfortunately, things change as we head into the weekend. It's goodbye 60s and near 70 degrees that we experienced early today. And hello, rain. We have an incoming system that brings us a round of showers tomorrow morning. I think for us here in Spokane, and right along I-90, I would say it starts around 9 a.m. That includes places up in Sandpoint as well. Over in Coeur d'Alene, North Idaho, I think about 10 a.m. And then by the afternoon, those showers move out and sunshine returns to much of the inland Northwest. That's going to help us warm back up. But the moisture plays a role in what we see on Sunday. There's a chance of a little bit of scattered shower activity Sunday afternoon, thanks to what we see on Saturday. But because what we see on Saturday isn't as impressive as what forecast models say, the scattered showers on Sunday won't be as widespread. So I think the weekend offers rain, but it's not a complete wash.
Jeremy, thank you so much. In the meantime, fire crews rushed into action just hours ago for a brush fire right by Interstate 90 near the US 2 exit this afternoon. The Spokane Fire Department says the fire's out and the area is now safe. In all, it burned a total of 3 acres. There was no threat to any buildings in the area. The Washington State Department of Natural Resources is now expected to take over into investigating exactly what caused the fire. Another of our big stories tonight that we have been tracking, new information in the Moscow murders case. Today, Idaho courts released a series of rulings on what evidence can be used in the trial against Bryan Kohberger. The court filed those 5 new court documents this morning, included in them a decision on whether to allow testimony about bushy eyebrows. That was a description used by one of the surviving roommates who came face to face with an intruder on the night of the murders. Attorneys for Kohberger had asked the court to block that description. However, the judge ruled the roommate's testimony stayed remarkably consistent through 5 interviews with police, as well as during her court testimony. The judge also denied the defense team's request to prohibit the use of the word murder and its other forms when referring to Kohberger, stating it was unnecessary because the prosecution agreed to use the term only in the context of the allegations. But the judge did grant the defense's request to exclude the terms psychopath and sociopath, saying they'd be highly prejudicial. The court also upheld the relevance of Kohberger's Amazon activity, which reportedly included the purchase of a knife and sheath similar to the one that was found at the crime scene bearing his DNA. Kohberger's charged with murdering 4 University of Idaho students, Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, Xander Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. His trial is set to begin with jury selection in late July. And for all of our previous Moscow murders coverage and for the most recent Bryan Kohberger's court case updates, head to our KREM 2 Plus app. Download our KREM 2 Plus app on your TV and you can watch for free. All right, time right now for your Night Beat for a quick look at today's top stories. City prosecutors filed criminal charges against 6 men following a chaotic Coeur d'Alene town hall back in February. Now, you may remember security staff in plain clothing were seen on camera dragging a woman out of the auditorium. Charges against the men include battery and false imprisonment. Additional charges included violations of the Coeur d'Alene Municipal Code. A federal jury in eastern Washington found Luis Esquivel Bolanos guilty of trafficking hundreds of thousands of pills across eastern Washington and beyond. The Mexican national has been linked to the Jalisco cartel and trafficking drugs in Oroville and on the Colville Indian Reservation, as well as across the state line in Montana, targeting tribal lands.
During the trial, Mr. Esquivel Bolanos took the stand and testified, claiming that he didn't distribute drugs in eastern Washington and into Montana. I'm grateful that the jury was able to see through his testimony and hold him accountable for the massive amounts of fentanyl, methamphetamine, heroin, and cocaine that he and his colleagues were distributing in eastern Washington and elsewhere.
Officers seized more than 160,000 fentanyl-laced pills and about 80 pounds of methamphetamine during that investigation. Bolanos' sentencing is July 16th. He faces the maximum sentence of lifetime imprisonment. He also may be deported. Seattle City Light officials answered tough questions from council members after an investigation revealed claims of widespread misconduct at the workplace. This all stems from a report released back in March. A third party employed by Seattle City Light documented reports dating as far back as 2017. The allegations include claims of sexually harassing female colleagues and also mentions culturally normalized drinking on the job and stocking work trucks with alcohol. Today, leadership maintains there is a dramatic change of course underway.
There was then and still exists an extreme amount of fear. People were afraid. People were afraid that they would lose their livelihood. People were afraid that they would be reviewed poorly if they didn't cooperate and go along, or at a minimum remain silent.
Leadership says 5 employees were fired. More than a dozen others were suspended or received verbal or written warnings. The bad behavior was reportedly widespread, with even apprentices pressured to join in or risk retaliation. And that was your Night Beat. For more on any of these stories, head to our website, KREM.com. And don't go to bed just yet tonight. New details continue to emerge following yesterday's tragic shooting at Florida State University.
There was a proposal originally from the legislature of like 16 or 17 billion in taxes.
But first, budget slash, tuition rising, and families now in limbo. The governor's latest budget decision and what's at stake for Washington families.